What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is The Flash, Season 5, Episode 4, News Flash. News Flash! um, so this one was okay. Definitely some interesting theories being tackled in this one, and it's all based on this idea that there's now meta tech out there. And as we can see from seeing the scenes of Cicada that we see that obviously whatever this shrapnel he has is clearly it's got meta powers because it's glowing the same color that the phone was glowing in this episode. But also we do see that scar, like where he got stabbed, probably by the shrapnel. I think also infected him, so he has meta powers as well, which is interesting because he keeps talking about how much he hates metahumans. Well, he himself is a metahuman. I'm wondering if that's going to get explained why. Like, it can't just be oh, the satellite fell and his daughter got hurt in the process and that's why he hates all metas. It's like, okay, I mean, but why metas specifically? Like, that doesn't, the metas have nothing to do really with the satellite necessarily. I don't know. I'm curious to find out what his motivation is, what led to his situation. But I like the idea of metatech, because like they said, basically now people, just normal humans, can use meta powers if they find a piece of meta tech. And it's an interesting concept that I'm excited to see them explore a bit more. Aside from that, though, I liked Ralph and Sherlock. That joke, it's not gotten old yet, but it's been funny so far. I hope they don't make it get old, because definitely some very fun moments with that so far. But the two of them team up in this episode, and I like the team up because Ralph is a detective. He's been a private eye for a while, and so while he's not the best, he's showing that he can make detective deductions. And so I like their little team up because Sherlock clearly is very intelligent, is master detective, but Ralph's no slouch either, and he's seeing things from a different point of view, not necessarily because he's smarter, but because he thinks differently than than Sherlock does. I'm just gonna call him Wells. I'm sorry, I can't keep. It's too much to emphasize the loch. But he thinks differently than Wells does. His mind is on a different. It's like thinking outside the box type of thing. So he thinks about the mask, whereas Wells is like, oh, the mask never had anything to do with it. It's always just been to hide his identity. So in this episode, though, we find out no, the mask actually does matter. So I don't know. I appreciated the fact that they did sort of team up. You got one guy who's very clearly good at deductions, but another guy who sort of thinks out of the box a little bit, and that's a fun team. On top of that, we also find out a bit more about why Nora has been so, like, frustrated with Iris and hesitant to be close to her. Apparently, Iris in the future puts a power dampener inside of her that keeps her from being able to be a speedster for a while. And somebody else, I guess, whoever this mysterious person that gave her the idea to go punch the satellite, I'm guessing is going to be the one that told her also about her powers. And here's the thing, like I'm not necessarily on one side or the other. I totally get both sides. I get Nora's side, yeah, that's frustrating. To have somebody take away your powers and not tell you that you had powers to begin with and lie to you for so long, especially your mom. I mean, that sucks. I totally get it. And on Iris's side, yeah, I can understand she probably did have a good reason. She probably did have some sort of reason why, whether it was just she needed to keep her in hiding or, because Barry was gone and she felt like, if Nora was able to use her powers, like, there would be nobody really to train her. And so she might lose control of those powers and it might become dangerous for herself. I don't know. I could see her having a good reason for not wanting her to know about her powers. So it's like I see both sides of it. However, the problem is I don't like Nora's reaction at the end of this episode. Because I really do think that Barry stepping in to say, you know what? I trust her. And then all of a sudden she's like, no, I guess I need to just rethink what family means. I get you're hurt. But also just turning your back now on your dad too because he agrees with what your mom did. Or not necessarily agrees, but just says, I'm sure she had a good reason. I don't know, it seems a little bit too close-minded and a little bit too like, no, no, I can't. I need to be mad for these next couple episodes. I need a reason to not listen to you again and get in trouble again, because that's what the season's wanted to do so far, is make Nora just kind of a bumbling idiot, constantly doing stuff that gets her and the others around her in trouble. So I don't know. It just feels more like a plot device than it does natural dialogue, which, I mean, obviously it's not natural. How would you react if your daughter came to you and was just like, "Hey, I'm from the future"? I mean, it's a weird concept. So I'm not entirely sure what, you know, what exactly would happen in a situation like this, because it's not really realistic. But also, just, it's mainly the fact that Nora is an adult, and she's, most of the time in this season so far, she's acted more like a kid. She's acted more like a teenager, like she's 18 or 19. But I'm pretty sure she's got to be at least close to her mid 20s, if not 25. You know, because like I said, the whole news article thing. So I don't know. It just seems a little bit childish the way she's acting, and because of the fact that I'm pretty sure she's an adult now, I don't agree with the way she's acting. So um, that's pretty much it, though. They did throw in, because I guess apparently all of these superheroes are just gonna have gay kids. So Nora apparently is homosexual, as we found out in this episode. At least they didn't like bash our heads in with it like some shows in the CW did. But yeah, there's a scene when Spencer apparently starts flirting with her, and she's like, "Oh, oh my, she thinks I'm cute." So yeah, I don't know. I swear, in the CW universe, that's how you know the CW worlds that they live in is not our world. Even though they try to make it seem like our world, it's because every other person, I swear, is gay. That's not how it works in our world, guys. I hate to tell you, but they're not every other person. You know, just the truth. I don't know. It's just, it was one of those things when it started happening. I'm like, God, first William and now Nora. Like, seriously. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, overall, still a good episode. Still curious to see where it's going. Just a few hiccups here with Nora, just the way she's acting and stuff. But anyways, that's about it for this one. On to the next one. See you there. And episode 5, all dolled up, because ragdoll. And I gotta say, the metahuman of the week thing, not my favorite part of this show. Sometimes they have some fun ones, but for the most part, I really like the characters. I like the main stories that they tell, going up against the main villain for the series and trying to find ways to overcome them. Typically, is the strongest part of this show. But I gotta admit, the metahuman in this episode, wow, very, very excellent. Not just, I mean, obviously it's probably based on a real character, but the whoever they cast, fantastic. Probably, if I had to guess, is probably somebody who, if I had to just throw out a guess, it looked like a circus performer. You know, it looked like somebody who's like a contortionist who can bend his body in a bunch of different ways. But then they add the bone sound effects, and oh, it was perfect. It was as creepy and as weird as they wanted it to be. It really, really worked. So I got to give him props. That villain was pretty awesome. Also, I just want to throw out there, because I've been a little upset with Iris in the past, because there's been a few times where it feels like she, you know, she's less of a character sometimes in certain episodes, because she tends to make it all about herself. And I know that's just a screenwriting thing. There are a couple episodes that for some reason they want to focus on her and they want to make it about her. It's not always about her. Sometimes it's about the team. But this one, I mean, I gotta give them props. They did a great job with Iris's character in this one. Cause man, I just, when she jumped off the building, my first thought was, why isn't Ralph just going down and like stretching and grabbing him? But then she grabs a hold of him, unlocks the key, and then Barry, you know, turns into the Flash and saves them both. Just like, I gotta give her credit. That's pretty awesome. And it was funny because like even the characters were like, "Whoa, that was so cool! Oh, you're such a badass." But like, you know, sometimes these shows tend to have moments where they praise characters, and I feel like it's praise that I'm not really sure is necessarily warranted. You know, like with Nora, sometimes they praise her a little too much, and it's just like, okay, you know, she's still learning. easy with the praise. It's kind of like what that the whatever her name was from the last episode, the girl that had the phone that was hypnotizing people. Like, it seemed like she was really focused on trying to make Nora the big spotlight. Sometimes I feel like the screenwriters are guilty of that as well. And to be perfectly honest, Run Iris Run is the perfect example of that. Because Iris just, she did stuff because she was the speedster in that episode, and everybody was like, oh yeah, she's so cool. Oh, Barry, you never did that, did you? You never done what she just did you? Well, yeah, because he's never faced a threat before like what she faced. It would be like if Iris went out and like caught a Subway sandwich out of the sky. Be like, oh, Barry, bet you've never done that, have you? Well, yeah, why would he? So it was very clear that they were trying to give Iris her moment, but it was a little, it felt forced. It didn't feel natural. This felt a lot more natural. Like, I would be one of the people who'd be like, dude, Iris, badass. Because to just jump off a building in the hopes that you can reach him and unlock the cusp before you guys hit the ground, and then he can save you both. I mean, that's damn impressive. So yeah, that scene, I was like, okay, nice. But yeah, and then the other part of this episode is, you got Cisco, Caitlin, Ralph, and then Wells, Sherlock. You got the four of them kind of teaming up to look for Caitlin's father, and you see Cisco dealing with his power struggle a little bit. I'm not really sure where any of this is going. Even with Caitlin's father, they managed to get satellites up at the end, which I was kind of like, why don't they start working on getting a new satellite? It seems like they're just sort of, guys, we just don't have a satellite. Man, we don't have a satellite. I don't know what we're going to do without a satellite. A bunch of scientists work on building a satellite. Come on. I get it's not as easy as just like, oh, just grab materials and start building it. Like, you need to get the right materials for it. But it does feel like something they could have started working on before. But it always felt like it was never talk of how are we going to replace the satellite. It was always just, well, guess we're done without a satellite. But then they decided to use the 4 satellites that DeVoe had put up last season. So I wondering why that wasn't a thought process beforehand. And also I kind of wonder if DeVoe prepared for this in any way. Like, he figured they would use his satellites after the fact, since they managed to stop that one satellite. I don't know. I'll be curious to see what this entails, but it seems like they finally have an internet network and a way to search things again like they used to. So, but yeah, Caitlin doesn't seem to really want to go after her father, or she's hesitant to. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, but there still seems a lot of mystery surrounding Caitlin and Killer Frost that I don't know what the plan is, but it's intriguing, and I like the slow build to finding out more and more about what's going on with her. But yeah, overall, I mean, good episode. I like the fact that Nora got a chance to see Iris in a different light. I really like what Celine did. There have been a few moments with Celine, even though it's still weird that she has like the psychic thing going on. I don't know. There have been some moments with Celine that I'm just like, yeah, she's a pretty good character. She makes some good decisions here and there. She kind of whips a couple people into shape when she needs to. And this was a good episode for her, getting to kind of tell these stories of Barry and then reveal in the end, actually, these are all stories of Iris. And that the one story she told about Iris and Barry and, him or her helping him in the yearbook club and all that stuff, that was freaking adorable. I mean, come on. It's just cute. But yeah, I really liked the fact that by the end, Nora, she appreciates her mom for who she is now. And I kind of had that thought, I think it was at the beginning of this episode, when she yells at her for what she does in the future. I'm like, yeah, but that's not who she is now. And even if it is what she does do in the future, like they said at the end of the last episode, she probably had a reason for it. She wouldn't just do that to her own daughter. It's not like she's a horrible mother or anything. So I don't know. I'm glad they kind of, I guess not necessarily repaired everything, but it seems like they're finally getting along, which I think is a great thing. But yeah, so that's about it for this one. On to the final one. See you there. And finally, episode 6, The Icicle Cometh. So, yeah, I mean, another pretty solid episode. We get to see a few different stories going on at the same time. All of them very, very different. So, first of all, the stuff I liked about, or, well, I guess the stories that I liked. I really liked getting to see Caitlin and pretty much that whole story. I thought was really good. And yeah, a lot of it felt real. And that's one thing. Like Cisco's getting upset with Barry and with Caitlin because they were just sort of accepting the fact that this was her father. But at the same time, it's hard to blame them because it makes sense that Caitlin would be this willing to accept that it's her father. Um, and I don't know. I felt like Cisco's a little not too harsh, but I think he was a little too upset considering the facts. Like if he were in the same situation, I'm sure he'd feel the same way. And it seems like he just doesn't really consider that. And he just sort of goes full on like, I can't believe you guys don't listen to me. Come on, and I don't know. I thought it was a little too mean spirited, but I did like the twist that her father also has a Killer Frost of his own. Ended up calling him Icicle, which he did mention that he was working with Victor Fries. So does that mean we're gonna see Mr. Freeze in this show? I think I can't remember if Victor Freeze has been a part of the show. I don't think he has been. I could be wrong though. But I mean, he practically is Mr. Freeze, just without the suit and ice gun. He himself has ice powers. But yeah, it was pretty interesting to see. And then of course we see Killer Frost come out at the end, and a nice little twist that they threw in there that Melting Point is not the one that took away Killer Frost's powers. He actually used a different metahuman's powers to create a mental block that made her unable to access Killer Frost powers. So now she just has to learn to be able to access them again. I'm like, that okay, that's pretty cool. I like how they did that. So, with that being said, the other part of this story that I kind of liked, but also is Iris and Nora. We see them going to find the core of the satellite. And so they're going around trying to ask around about it and basically finding out using the satellites and using, I guess, some sort of like imaging thing. If they can find out where the core landed, they can find out where the shrapnel went and hopefully find out who got hit by it. And so sure enough, they're going out and they find it. They find out about Cicada's daughter. But the problem I had with it was just a little too much of they're trying to get along, but they still have their moments where they're clearly kind of butting heads because I think in some ways personality wise they're very similar. And so that's why they tend to butt heads more, whereas she and Barry like have more similar interests, but they're not personality wise the same. So I don't know. It was one of those things. It felt a little awkward, kind of that almost reminiscent of that cringe stuff that Iris was doing in the first episode, where she was trying to use Shui unironically, and it was just stupid. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that type of humor, and I just didn't really like it as much. But they did find Cicada's daughter because of it, so I thought it was good detective work from all of them to be able to find out about that. And on Cicada, I think his story is pretty interesting so far too. Still a lot of mystery though, so it's watching his story. It's still hard for me to be like, yeah, I really really like this. But I do like the scenes that we get to see of him. Like we see how much of a caring father he is. The few moments that we have seen. We see that this nurse apparently is helping him at the hospital. So yeah, I'm curious to see where his story's going to go from here. We see whatever this stab wound is, it's basically irradiating more and more inside his body and giving him more strength, which is interesting because if you think about it, that means he's becoming slowly a metahuman. So he's basically becoming what he's trying to destroy. I wonder if they're going to touch on that at all. The nurse, though, we did find out a little bit more about her and why she's helping him in the first place. And it's just because, she hates metahumans too. And it's because she has to deal with so many people coming in from a metahuman attack. So I like that we got a little bit more personality from these two, or at least a little bit more characterization on them. Oh, why am I so tired? God, it's not even 9 yet. But yeah, so a little bit more personality and characterization on them was good. And then finally we see Cecile and Ralph kind of going off and doing their own little thing. For the life of me, I cannot remember what it had to do with the main story. I don't know why. But I think it might have had something to do with looking in the hospitals. I don't know. But it was played a little bit more for know why I'm tired. I can't explain it. But they played a little bit more for laughs, you know, because Celine, she has like this little thing where she's just like, oh, I just don't know if I'm as scary or as intimidating as I used to be, and come to find out, apparently she was reading the guy's mind, so she was feeling what he was feeling, which is why she was a little off. I don't know, it was just kind of weird, and she got to have her moment later on. So, I don't know, it was just kind of there. Didn't really grasp onto that one at all. Although Ralph, once again, had some very funny lines. The one thing he consistently brings, some of his deliveries are just perfect. So when she talked about pumping, he's like, what are you pumping? Oh, just pitch perfect. But yeah, so that's about it for these 3 episodes. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. We can talk about, discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe, future Flash reviews. Wow. Gonna need to like eat something because I've got Arrow episodes to do after this. It's not even midnight. I'm going to at least midnight. Come on, son. I'll see you guys in the next one though. Peace out.